I think it's fair to say that DC is in fact having a bit of a tough time at the moment. It's not really something that's up for debate. It's purely a case of they are. They did really well with Wonder Woman, and I'm going to get onto that in a minute, but pretty much everything else that they've released has been, well, quite frankly, shit. Man of Steel was terrible. It was such a departure from Superman's character that, you know, I'm going to get into these individually. The Suicide Squad was Suicide's flop. Jesus fuck, it was a terrible mess, and I haven't even seen it. Like, I refuse to watch it. But I've spoken to loads of people who have seen it, and they've all said it's... Well, no. I've seen one person who's looked at it and said, well, if you look at it for what it is, it's good fun, but as a, you know, an actual work of film, it's terrible. Then you look at what Jack Howard said about it, it's a mess. Then Batman vs Superman was unnecessary and just lacked some serious direction. Justice League, fucking... It was just boring. It was just so boring. Like, the whole point was to bring back Superman. Like, why? I mean, I get it, you know, he's you know, a heavy hitter, but you've got Wonder Woman and Batman and the Flash and Cyborg. You don't need anyone else. I mean, don't get me wrong, you're taking down Steppenwolf, but Batman's avoided Darkseid's Omega beams before. You don't need the Man of Steel just to take down Steppenwolf, who's, you know, nowhere near as bad as Darkseid. You've got Wonder Woman. You've got the rest of the Amazons, in theory, if you can, you know, talk to them. You've got Batman as a strategist. You've got, you know, you've got the Flash. He's, you know, at this stage, he's not, you know, greatly, massively into it, but he's not, like, really powerful. But he's got potential. But anyway, I digress. I think DC are having a bit of an identity crisis, really, because you look at how they handled Suicide Squad and the way they just, as Jack Howard said, they just kept editing it. As far as I'm aware, that's what happened. It's just basically an extended music video more than anything else. There's no real direction. It's just a case of just keep editing and editing. Doesn't matter who's the main character. Doesn't matter who's a villain. Any of that doesn't matter. Joker's only in 2 scenes. Don't care. Just keep editing it until it's better. That's apparently what they did. They're nervous, quite rightly so, because Man of Steel was an abomination, and, you know, Batman vs Superman didn't do well at all. Yeah, Batman vs Superman was a departure for both characters. Like, Superman was really dark. Batman... I'm going to rant about the reason for these in a minute, but let me just... Batman and Superman were way too dark. I get it, it's DC. We need to be gritty and dark. But, you know, to have some restraint. This isn't the Dark Knight trilogy, which I've seen people critique, like, not understanding source material, and they then talked about the Dark Knight trilogy, and they said, well, clearly not read enough of, like, the comics to truly understand what Batman is. They read, like, you know, the 4 biggest and best, and that's it. That's not a true representation. But you can't really critique the Dark Knight like that, because everything's different. It's so off. It's nothing... It's not supposed to be, like, a decent representation of... It's not supposed to be a decent representation of the comics. It is supposed to be its own thing in its own world. You can tell that by what they did to the Joker. He's completely different. Like, he's not sort of... He's so dark. He's not like the sort of happy-go-lucky himself. I mean, this is all, you know, contextually happy-go-lucky. When I say happy-go-lucky, I mean he doesn't really care. He's just, everything's a joke to him. But in The Dark Knight, so much of his time is, you know, why so serious? It's that. It's not... You want to hear something funny? Acid! Ha! I mean, that's a terrible Joker thing, but you know, that sort of approach to everything, to his criminality, that's what he normally takes, but he doesn't do that in The Dark Knight. So you can't critique it that way. But the rest of the DCEU is fully up for that sort of critique. I mean, you can't critique the CW shows the same way, because, I mean, Arrow is, again, it's a very dark interpretation, because I don't fully know. All I know is from, like, the little bits of Justice League comics I've read, so, like, you know, the ones that my local library have in, which is very few compared to how many there are, and obviously any sort of the Justice League cartoon, you know, Justice League Unlimited, all that sort of stuff. That's where most of my sort of DC knowledge comes from. So obviously there's not an awful lot of Oliver Queen backstory in there. But as far as I know, I don't think Oliver Queen came back from that island and started being an assassin, which is basically what he is in Arrow. So again, you can't really critique the CW shows quite the same way. I mean, as soon as you get pretty much past the, I'd say, season 2 or 3 mark on Arrow, you probably can. But it's different, so... But yeah, anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, Batman vs Superman. Yeah, Batman was way too dark for, you know, what you're trying to do, which is a decent sort of interpretation of the comics. And then Wonder Woman was good. I have my complaints about it, and that'll link into my complaints about what I think Aquaman's going to be like. And then we have Justice League, which had a couple of good points, but you know my problem with it. Okay, so we're going to get into my sort of problems with the current films and what the problem is. And funny enough, the problem is 2 words. First word beginning with Z, the second one beginning with S. And if you guessed Zack Snyder, then you are correct, because he is everything wrong with the DCEU at the moment. The DC Cinematic Universe needs to get rid of Zack Snyder, because look at it. He's directed, as far as I can tell, I don't know about Suicide Squad, because like I said, don't own it, so I don't know who directed it, but all of the ones that I've seen, you know, Man of Steel, I'm pretty sure he directed Man of Steel. I don't own that one either, because that was terrible, but I own Batman vs Superman, and I'm pretty sure we own Justice League. They're both directed by Zack Snyder, and he did a terrible job of them. And if you look at Ryan Hollinger's retrospective on Dawn of the Dead, I believe it is, I'm pretty sure it's Dawn of the Dead, he talks about Zack Snyder, and it's a very interesting interpretation, and I would say it's very true. It's all about style. The substance is style. There's no real sort of... I'm finding it really difficult to try and describe what I mean, but there's no real sort of actual thought or love or into any, like, the plot of the characters. He sort of said, okay, let's make it look cool. Characters can come later. First and foremost, let's make it look cool. Let's make a marketable trailer. Which I think is what he does. He sort of looks at it as, okay, so what do we need? Okay, we need explosions, we need cool action scenes, we need fast-paced, you want to get caught up in it, we don't want you to be questioning why that character hasn't been fully fleshed out, and we want to be able to cut this up and make a very good trailer, and we want to be able to do that, like, now. And I think that's the sort of approach he takes, and you look at the way he approached, you know, Batman vs Superman, like, there's no character development in that. They just kind of exist, so, you know, and then one of them dies. So, okay, cool, yay. And, you know, they bring out Doomsday. Like, why? Why did you bring out Doomsday now? Doomsday's like the big bad guy for Superman, really. I mean, obviously, you know, Lex Luthor's there as well, but, you know, Superman fights Lex Luthor, and he's the ongoing villain. Doomsday is the, oh shit, things are going down. That's the sort of villain that Doomsday is, right? He's all, I want to destroy you, man. He's like the Hulk, pretty much. But if the Hulk, you know, was made of rocks. Oh, he's the Thing! That's what he is. I'm fully aware that Doomsday probably came before the Thing, okay? I don't know, though. Maybe not. I don't know. But anyway, yeah. So they wasted Doomsday. It's just because Zack Snyder said, okay, who's big, who's bad, who's ugly, who looks cool, and who's going to make a cool fight. This character called Doomsday? Right, sounds good. Oh, he looks cool. I know what we're going to do with him. We're going to make him fight. Kryptonite Spear, that sounds like a good plan. Like, where the fuck are you getting that much kryptonite from? Jesus, Bruce. Like, I mean, that's Lex Luthor levels of kryptonite. But like I said, it's all style. There's no real character development in it. There's none. We don't learn anything new about these characters. They sort of just say, we're going to fight. Martha! Oh, we're going to stop fighting. Move on. That's all it is, right? And then we move on to Justice League, which, again, Zack Snyder he's tried to build up some lore. He sort of said, okay, the Amazons of controlling, the boom tube, because I mean that's what those giant blue things are. If you didn't know, they're called boom tubes. Trying to hold my voice in one position is really difficult. I'm like, okay, we'll be right back after the short interlude. I feel like Ethan. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, so he's tried to build some lore and some story with the boom tubes and stuff, but it feels so setup-y. Like you look at Avengers Assemble, and it is kind of setup-y, but it's like they are a team. Like halfway through, and there's chemistry and there's development between the characters. But Justice League is literally it feels like setup for a Justice League sequel. It feels the same way Batman vs Superman did. Because Batman vs Superman was clearly a setup for Justice League. I'm like, okay, maybe Justice League will be better. They've set up a little bit. They're going to get the team together, then they're going to, fight some big bad. Cool. I like that idea. And then Justice League it felt like setup, because the whole thing was, let's bring back Superman to fight this big bad because we're not a team yet. It's like, yeah, your entire film, pretty much, bar the last 20 minutes, revolved around setting up your team and getting to be a team, which is what the first half an hour of Avengers Assemble was. And I know, you Marvel fangirl. Yeah, I am, because they do fucking good films. I'm so far a Marvel fangirl. So basically, if you want to fix the problems, kick out Zack Snyder. Stop. Okay, going to move on to my next problem, which is Wonder Woman. I really like Wonder Woman. It's a good film. I just have one complaint. Like 70% of the plot is Captain America: The First Avenger. Don't argue with me. Okay, tell me, what's the plot of Captain America: The First Avenger? Okay, ignoring the Captain America part, what's the overarching thing? Okay, so evil German people create super weapon, go to drop it on the world, plane must crash and kill a main character. Okay, a main character, not the main character, a main character. Because that's going to be important for when we get to the comparisons with Wonder Woman. Okay, Wonder Woman, what's the plot? Forgetting all of the Wonder Woman part of it, forgetting all the hero setup in both of them, the characters, so strip it bare. You can change out the characters, doesn't matter. Okay, so both of them are evil German people, create super weapon, are going to drop it using plane on unsuspecting Western countries. A main character must then crash the plane, killing themselves in the process to stop said super weapon being dropped on other countries. Okay, now, I saved something. I liked something on Instagram yesterday, and I'm going to find it now so I can exactly say what it says. Okay, I think I've gone too far. Okay, I can't find it, but pretty much what it was a direct comparison of Black Panther and Aquaman. It said, okay, so a battle between kings, a battle for the throne, Highly advanced city hidden from the rest of the world. Fuck, I can't remember every single point it made. Let me see if I can find it online. Okay, so I'm just going to keep talking while I search this up, but it's going to sound a bit muffled because I'm going to be outside of the phone. Basically, it was a direct comparison of Black Panther and Aquaman, like I said. And it represented the fact that, again, they're basically the same. They're basically the same films. They're just the setting and oh man, the setting and the characters are different, but that's the only thing that is different. It's a Screen Rant post I found. Aquaman is the same story as Black Panther, except Killmonger's the hero. Okay, so Atlantis is a futuristic, technologically advanced society, right? And you have a king. You also have a spurned sibling relative who's coming back to take the throne back. And let's see. A secondary antagonist, a pirate terrorist who's an outsider to the main society, but either by stealing or gifting has its tech. Andy Serkis's Clow is an arms dealer who uses a vibranium sonic cannon. Well, oh fuck, okay. I'm gonna screw this name up because I'm only reading it. I haven't heard it. Yahya Abdul Mateen. I'm sorry. Abdul Mateen Ill's David Hyde becomes Black Panther using Atlantean armor given to him by Orm. Here, though, it comes an interesting distinction. While Serkis' character never got to fulfill his comic book promise, looked like Black Panther might. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, yeah, pretty much. Once you strip away all of the flashiness and you speak basic plot, they are the same, just from the hero being a different person. It's hero and villain switched around, and everything else is the same, right? And as such, I don't have a problem with that yet. When I will have a problem with it is when invariably DC will literally just make the same film and the character will be different. You need to make some sort of distinctions in the plot as well, like just small things really. And I get it's from a different point of view. It's different. No, it's not different. It's like you said, it's from a different point of view. That's the only difference. You need some plot point needs to be majorly different. Like, I don't know. Maybe the two sides can unite instead of just fighting for the throne. Maybe it can be a case of Black Manta kills the current ruler of Atlantis, and, you know, democratically, Aquaman gets voted in by the people. Like, that would... Yeah, I would then say, okay, yeah, no, any criticism that you had beforehand, they're very similar, whatever, yeah, that's... And I don't think it's an exact fault of, like, the comic, of the films. I think there's a little bit of similarity in the comics in themselves. But... you do have to take into account other films that have come out when you start planning yours. And don't get me wrong, I reckon they'll probably have had Aquaman like already being worked on while Black Panther was already being worked on. So it's not a case of, you know, they stole or they copied or anything. It's just they need to be very aware. Because when you consider that, you know, Black Panther was released on DVD June the 11th. I know because it was released on my birthday. It was released on June the 11th. And we've only just got the trailer. Like, the trailer for Black Panther would have come out, like, way before they'd even finished, like, working, like, I would say, sort of basic script drafts. And the amount that you can change a plot... I mean, just look at Suicide Squad. The amount that they changed the plot before, like, it was released. And that was just in the editing process, pretty much. You can do reshoots. You can seriously change things up. It's not that difficult. Well, don't get me wrong, it is difficult, but it's not that difficult. But sidetrack, I'm actually going to go back and critique something else. Basically, Aquaman got critiqued for a lot of CGI in the trailer, and like for, you know, for the city itself, and everyone was like, "Oh well, what do you expect? It's a city underwater. What do you expect? Of course they've got to CGI it." And my response to that is, "No, you're a fucking idiot. You can use miniatures. It's not that difficult. You can make. I was about to say you can make them like a building is about this big, and then I realized that you can't see how big this big is. What if you make like a one-story building about 20 centimeters tall, make it. That's what about 1.5 feet wide. That's a one-story building, and then you just dump that all in a tank. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's expensive, but I mean the CGI costs will be a lot less because all you have to do is you just have to put in obviously some lighting effects. You need to clean up some of the edges, maybe do some obviously color grading, put in any sort of other sprites of like I call them sprites. You wouldn't use sprites, but 3D models of like fish and people, well, mer people. It's doable. It's I mean, I think that's more my perspective. It's probably a lot easier to just do it all CGI. But the prop maker in me says, no, don't do that. Do it with miniatures. That's the prop maker in me though. So, but the people who say, well, you can't do it any other way. No, you are wrong. You can. I won't deny that a lot of it you will pretty much have to do purely with CGI, but you could. It's not impossible to do it without CGIing in all of the buildings and all of the surrounding environments and all that sort of stuff. Because you know damn well that's what they've done. They've got rough shapes made out of green screen, and then they're just gonna input in all of the buildings and stuff on that because that's how they do it. And I can see the benefits of that because some of these structures are going to be pretty much impossible to make. Well, impossible to make and then have actors interact with it in the same way. Because you try and make a pretty much fully stained glass structure, that's damn expensive for one. And for another thing, you can't have the characters kicking off of it, say, like you would have, Aquaman would kick off of say he gets knocked into a thick stained glass building and he kicks off of it to come back and attack Black Manta or something like that. Well, if you make that and you're going to make it out of acrylics or something like that, they might not hold. Oh, well, they might not hold having to do that take 50 different times, whereas if you just make a box and cover it in a green screen, that thing will take it until the cows come home. It'll keep going. You can use that for the next 3 films. It's something that's quite easily going to get knocked the shit out of it, and it'll still be fine. Now, I would say there's hope on the horizon. I'm personally really looking forward to the Flashpoint film because Flashpoint is one of my favourite comic arcs of all time. It's great. I think if they ask Zack Snyder for sort of artistic direction on Thomas Wayne's Batman. Okay, quickly before I get into what I think they should do with Flashpoint, I'm just going to say spoilers for Flashpoint. I'm going to reveal the plot. If you're at all interested, if you're not interested in watching the film, you just want to know the plot and what I think they should do, then carry on listening. I'm going to explain it in a minute. If you don't know Flashpoint, or if you've forgotten Flashpoint, then the idea is that when normally where like Thomas and Martha Wayne would have been killed originally, like for Batman in this universe, this alternate universe, it would have in fact actually been Bruce who was killed in the alley. Martha became the Joker and Thomas became Batman. It's a little odd and different. Like I would sort of look at it and say, well, why did he become Batman? I mean, I get it. It's the whole thing of its parallels, and you need to deceive the Flash. You need to go, oh my God, Bruce, and then it turns out that actually no, it's Thomas. And I get that, but at the same time, you lack a lot of the context. Like you look at why Bruce became Batman, and he took a bat as a sign, and he wanted to inflict his fear upon others. That was why he did it. But I don't think that if I was a parent and I knew that my child, who I was obviously now on this crime rampage, like this anti-crime rampage, I was doing it in his memory. If my son hated bats, I would distance myself from bats altogether. I would be the furthest thing that I could think of from a bat. I would be, what kills bats? Giant centipedes do it. So, hey, centipede woman, here I come, right? I would do that sort of thing. I wouldn't be a bat, but it's necessary for plot convenience and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, so I reckon what they should do is they should bring in Zack Snyder for like the aesthetics of this alternate universe and for Thomas Wayne's Batman, because if you look at the way he handled Dream Sequence Batman from Batman vs Superman, he did that. Basically, you look at that is Thomas Wayne's Batman. He throws people off of rooftops. Oh no, sorry, my bad. They slip, and they do that a lot. But yeah, so I think if you bring in Zack Snyder for artistic and aesthetic consult on this alternate universe, that would work very well. But don't let him anywhere near the plot, because he will ruin all the nuance and all the emotions, because that's such an emotional story. It's brutal. Like that end bit, I mean, where it cuts off, it's like, I'm just thinking about it. It's like, oh wow, Jesus, you can feel that. It's sort of getting on for the point of Justice League death. Like, fuck me. Where was I? But yeah, so I reckon Flashpoint has the potential to be the best DC film that they're ever going to release. It's potential for it because of what it is. It's, well, I think my personal favourite, maybe not the best, but my personal favourite, because I fucking love Flashpoint as an arc. I've just watched a shorter version of the trailer for Shazam. Now, Shazam, I'm really excited for, because you think, what's DC's problem? They take themselves too seriously. They're too dark. They're too focused on, action, and that's why they're bringing Zack Snyder, right? They can't do that with Shazam. Look at it. He's a kid. They've got a kid basically as Superman. That's effectively what Shazam is. It's a 12-year-old as Superman. It's fucking great. And you look at his attitude in the trailer, like, hey, I'm a superhero. It's like, sorry about your window, but you're welcome for stopping the robbery. Like, he's so different, and everything's so bright about him as a character that it's going to be such a departure. Well, if they do it right, it's going to be such a departure from what they're currently doing that potentially it might help them to, fix any problems that they might currently have. So, we'll see how it goes, really. But, there's some serious potential there. So I'm excited to see what Shazam does, and then I'm really excited to see how they handle Flashpoint. But all in all, I hope Aquaman's better, but if it's a Zack Snyder property, then it's probably going to lose all the nuance that Black Panther has as a story. Because I'm going to make direct comparisons between Aquaman and Black Panther. If they can handle it, okay, I'm not going to be as annoyed at Aquaman if they basically do exactly what Wonder Woman did, which is same basic plotline, don't change anything about it. I'm going to be slightly miffed, but I'm not going to get annoyed and say, oh, it's just Black Panther. So if they can handle it as well as they did with Black Panther, so basically just copy it, if that's what they do, then it's not fair enough. You should come up with your own films, but I'm not going to be as annoyed as if they just did a really shit job of it. If they recognise that they can't come up with their original plotline and not make Aquaman dumb, which everyone says, oh, Aquaman's dumb, because, Super Friends kind of ruined his image. And, they've tried so many times to make him look cool, and a lot of people say, oh, you're just trying too hard. But I think, like, the one-handed version, like, from the Justice League cartoon and from all the way up until before the New 52, I think it was. I think I really liked that version of Aquaman. He was it was a grouchy Poseidon character, is how I viewed him personally. That's not exactly what he was, but it was a grumpy Poseidon. That's how I saw him, and it really worked with his character. It wasn't, trying too hard to be cool. It was just, it wasn't goofy. It was, don't get me wrong, I think that, the whole metal hand might have been going a bit far, but the way they sort of brought it in, it was like, a fight between him and like his brother or something like that. His half-brother, I think. So there was, the definite sort of potential in that version, and I think Jason Momoa's version could work really well as well. Because I think Jason Momoa has, especially with like the Justice League, I think he was one of the better characters in there. Like him and Barry Allen as characters were like the best, because I don't know, I think Zack Snyder's handling of Wonder Woman as a character was shit. Cyborg, it's not I don't like Cyborg, I think he's just kind of boring. Like there's definite potential in his character, but I think he's just kind of boring. Batman's poorly handled as per usual. Superman's just dull. Like comic Superman's a lot better. I still don't like him so much as a character because there's no real sort of. He's got the inherent coolness of he's basically a god, but as soon as you put him into like a fight, it's like, yeah, whatever, he's going to win. Cool. Like when you examine Superman as a person, he's an interesting character, but when you examine him as a fighter, he's boring. It's like whatever. It's like when the whole Goku versus Superman debate. Superman would win. I'm sorry, he would. It's not I personally prefer Goku. I don't really like Dragon Ball because it's the humor that really does it for me. It's the same reason that I hate bits of like Bleach, because of the humor in that. So I can't stand Dragon Ball really. I'm gonna give it another go at some point, but so yeah, I don't like Goku as much as I like Superman, but at the same time, Superman as a fighter, he's boring. It's dull. Because he is a god. And the point still stands, when like Screw Attack Death Battle did it, and they said who would win, and they said Superman, they were right both times. Because of, I mean, even if it's the attitude that Goku takes that's the problem. Okay, so I'm going to do a little side rant real quick. Goku could win. I'm not going to deny that. Goku has the potential to win, but it would require him going like Super Saiyan 4 immediately, kick some kryptonite towards him, Super Saiyan 4, smush him. Superman is gone. But because of the way that Goku fights, he says, I want you at your maximum. Superman doesn't have a maximum. Even if you look at Superman Prime, Superman 1 million, fucking golden boy from like the future. Like, that's not even his maximum. That's close to his maximum. But the thing is, the guy doesn't have a maximum. As I said, you have Goku, who can overcome any limit, and you have Superman, who has no limits. Goku says, I want to fight you at your maximum. Okay, well, how long are you willing to wait? Because if you're willing to wait 3 lengths of the universe, then yeah, I'll fight you after that. But if you're only going to wait 15 minutes, then, well, it'll be a hard fight, but, give me some time and I can beat you. It's that sort of thing. But anyway, like I said, so yeah, Jason Momoa's like Aquaman and The Flash were the best sort of characters. They were they had the most nuance to them, I would say. Well, actually no, The Flash didn't have very much nuance, but I think they were truest to like my favourite versions of their character. Anyway, I've been rambling for far too long. I should probably cut it off. But anyway, like I said, get rid of Zack Snyder. The Flash is fucking cool and powerful as fuck. If you don't believe me, then fucking watch him versus Brainiac Lex Luthor. That's fucking nuts.